I'm Jay Taylor. I'm the editor of a newsletter called Jay Taylor's Gold Energy and Tech Stocks. I'm also the host of a radio show called Turning Hard Times into Good Times. I'm here with Kevin Keough. He's the president and CEO of Evergold Corp. It's a company that has got a couple of very exciting stories, a couple of very exciting projects in the what's referred to as the Golden Horseshoe in British Columbia. One of those is in the Golden Triangle, areas that are very well known for some fantastic gold deposits and mineral deposits in general, very well endowed minerally. And Kevin has had a good track record. He's a very successful geologist with past discoveries. So we're really pleased to have him with us again. Thanks for joining us, Kevin.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be here, Jay.
It's good to meet up with successful people, and you've had a good track record, as I just said. Evergold is trading EVER, Ever, in Canada, and you can buy it down here in the States as I have under the symbol EVGUF. We've got 73.6 million shares outstanding, giving it a market cap of around $22 million in Canadian money. But as I said, the company has two projects in British Columbia. One is the Snowball, and that's sort of on the western limb of the Golden Horseshoe. And then it's got the Golden Lion. It's to the east side over on the Golden Horseshoe. Kevin, tell us a little bit. I think the one you're working on first is the Snowball. I think you're going to be working on both of your British Columbia projects this year, but I think, if I'm not wrong, the Snowball is the one you're going to work on first.
Actually, you are wrong, Jay.
I'm wrong.
But you're right that we're going to be working on both, but we're starting at Golden Line and we'll be active. It's not long now. We'll be starting at Golden Line on about June 1st.
Okay.
All being in, yeah.
All right. Well, you did some work there in 2020. What can you tell us about what you learned in 2020, and maybe something about the style of mineralization, the system, its potential scale, and what you're planning to do in 2021? There.
Yes. Well, Golden Line, the style of system is very similar to Snowball and to Rockland in Nevada. They're all epithermal style mineralization. At Golden Line, the key thing is that we believe, based on the work we've done, that all of the drilling, both ourselves and by Newmont, way back in the early 80s, has just been scratching the surface of this rather large gold zone. We've demonstrated the scale of it. It's over 800 meters, probably north of 150 meters true widths. But the IP work we did in September last year, we actually did it all summer, but it really wrapped up and crystallized around about September 10th. We progressively filled in the lines, and it gave us a really compelling target that seems to indicate the system is much stronger just below where we drilled. And that's going to be the target for this next phase of work, which is getting underway soon.
So you're going to be drilling a little deeper. I noticed that the pretty long intersections with lower grades, sub 1 gram in many cases.
Yeah.
But what you're looking for is the sweet spot or some feeder zones or something deeper, closer to the origin of this mineralization, I guess. And you'll be...
Yes, we know and we understand very little about it at the minute. I can tell you at the GL1 main zone, where all of our drilling took place last year and where Newmont's did also, when we expanded on Newmont's work, but there is a chargeability donut there. It's literally a donut, a very big donut that's open to the west. We don't know what that means yet, whether it's an intrusion that's come up there. We shall see, but we do know we have gold over a broad intercept, over a long strike length that's open, and it does have potential for very high grades because we actually sampled very high grade silver, for example, in outcrop just to the south of where we were drilling last year. So there seem to be two trends there, is a silver trend and a gold trend. But we were getting, and I'm not exaggerating, I think the highest number we got from outcrop was about 13.5 kilograms per ton of silver.
Yeah.
Crop. So let's see what unfolds, but the target's quite exciting.
Right. So do you have your drills plans? I guess if you're going to start in June, you must already have figured where you're going to drill.
Yes, actually, it'll be focused on that target I talked about, and your viewers can go to the website and take a look at the current presentation.
Yeah.
You see in there some of the section views of the chargeability target, which is relative to our drilling just below it. And that's where we're going to focus in the next phase. It's about 2,500 meters for the next phase of work, Jay, which is very similar to the scale of the program, phase one program last year, but we have quite a bit of cash in reserve. We can expand that program with success. And I would mention that part of the reason we're getting underway there so early is we have a camp already established. We don't need to move in. The camp is there. We left it in place because things really were encouraging last year.
Wonderful. Okay. Yeah, I know. And looking at your website at the presentation, it is very clear where you're planning to put the drills down. It's very helpful. I think people should go there and visit that for sure. Okay. Well, then Snowball is your other major project up there in BC. You've had some very high grade, narrow intercepts, but very high grade stuff that you've reported last year. What did you learn from last year's work, and what are you planning to do this year?
Well, last year we faced with the first time any of us, of course, had ever drilled that property, and there are always challenges that you can't really plan for ahead of time. To give you one example, the rock was tough to drill at Snowball compared to Golden Line. The rock was quite broken up. I mean, we knew the top of Pyramid Peak where we focused was very weathered, but it really reduced our productivity on the drilling front. And so we had our struggles. Weather was a serious one. There was a local weather effect there. But the really good news is that we demonstrated we have one of the classic golden triangle style high grade gold silver vein systems. And we drilled it on quite literally the highest elevation on the property. We built the apex pad, named as it is because it's right on the top of Pyramid Peak. And we did that, Jay, because we could not tell, given the weathered nature of the rock, where the structures were or what the orientation of them were that was giving rise to all the high grade gold and silver and talus finds. So we built that pad so we could drill 360 degrees without moving. And, you know, as luck would have it, in fact, our first hole got us visible arsenopyrite. And that got us excited because we knew from the historical work that the gold and silver is most closely associated with high grade arsenopyrite on the property. And but it was a struggle. The long short of it is we got multiple narrow, genuinely high grade intercepts in a vein zone, which we're now calling the C zone. And we think we figured things out. We went back after the drilling wrapped up. So again, in early September last year, we were on the ground. We trenched into the side of the Pyramid Peak. We basically have found in outcrop really rich arsenopyrite, sometimes up to 80% arsenopyrite in veins that are outcropping. And we also did a lot more sampling there. It's right just beyond where we're able to reach with the drills. So that's the target for this next phase of work. It's this so-called sweet spot within the C zone trend. The C zone trend is quite long. Maybe it's a bit like Saddle South, where you've got a broad vein zone that has a strike length to it. And within it, you're going to have better places to be. So we're hoping that we get much stronger widths to go with the high grades. And I think we can deliver that because we're seeing not only arsenopyrite in veins, but we're seeing it in the wall rock too. So that offers the potential for greater width. So the plan, very similar to last year, again, in terms of scale, about 2,000 meters. We're going to build 4 pads focused on this sweet spot, or what we think is the sweet spot. And that'll be the first focus. And if it works out, we'll just follow it into the mountain, and we can use the topography to our advantage that way, Jay.
Sure. And when do you think you might start work there? If you're starting Golden Lion in June, when might you get over to Snowball?
Well, the strategy is we've got 2 drills, right? One of them's going to, we do the work over in Golden Line first, get that underway pronto. Then we're going to move over to Snowball, and we leave the 1 drill at Golden Line. So we'll get Snowball underway later in July. Probably the drilling there will be sometime after the 20th of July. And that's partly because of what we learned last year about the weather. The best, you want to be on Snowball in August and September, especially, not so much June or July with the snow melt and all of that. So we have 1 crew servicing 2 drills. We move from one project to the other. Then by that point, we have results coming back for the first project. We go back and continue wherever we really get the best, most encouragement from the rocks.
Yeah, I hope our turnaround speeds up a little bit from what the general turnaround with assays. It's a bit of a problem. What is your expectation in that regard?
Well, we actually have a bit of a strategy this year. We realize that if you're drilling 150-meter long holes, and you know the technique in the industry is to drill the whole hole, maybe 300 meters, sample it, and then ship it in pretty much in one go, right? And then you don't announce the results till you have all of the results for the 1 hole. So that's quite a lengthy process. We actually bought this year a couple of these little backpack drills. They're quite sophisticated. They'll generate proper core for you, not much of it. But for example, at Snowball, where I was mentioning we have this really lovely looking material in outcrop now, Jay, we're going to put the drills, the little drill on this just right out the gate, because even if we can generate 10, 15 meters of real core in outcrop, we'll turn that around very quickly. We don't have to wait long. It'll sort of help feed the market in terms of what's there sitting right on surface. That's hopefully very high grade. And then we have the big drills doing their work, and that'll come much later. And we'll use another one of the little drills as well up on Golden Line. Very similarly up there, we've got a lot of strong geochemistry across that property and targets right on surface that we can get to pretty quickly. And we'll follow up with the big drill.
Okay, so you're pretty well funded, I guess, for these 2 projects this year, for what your plans are?
Yes, we financed, of course, we financed on our last financing at roughly the same price as our IPO, which you might recall occurred late in 2019. So we raised quite a lot of money, $8 million at 20 cents with a warrant on that as well. We brought in some significant new shareholders, as well as some of our current crops brought and others from previous rounds. And we have about $7.5 million now. We're going to devote about 1.5 million to the phase 1 at Snowball of that money, and probably about 2 million to Golden Line, the next phase. And we basically will also spend probably about 400,000 on Rockland in Nevada. And we're doing some work even on Holy Cross and Spanish this summer, mainly IP. That leaves us with over $2 million of reserve that we can devote to immediate follow-up wherever we get satisfaction.
Good. Okay. Well, now that you mentioned Rockland, give us a little bit of a background on Rockland and what your plans are this year, if you're planning to do any. Well, you mentioned you will be doing some work there, but tell us a little bit about Rockland, because it's something you picked up recently. It looks very exciting, and also something that will give you some news flow during the winter months when you might not be active up in British Columbia.
Well, very true. And some people think that's why we picked it up, but it's not. Charlie Gregg, who you may know, Charlie and I have worked together closely on GT and in the past. So Charlie was down there in November and on other business, and this property was brought to his attention by one of our directors Darwin Green. So he went and looked at it and really liked it. And why, and you know, I wasn't keen actually to bring on any other properties, but when you look at it, I did get keen. And the reason is, it's not only got one of these old high grade past producers from the cowboy days on the west side of the property, it has that. But the real upside there is the potential on the east side of the property at Rockland East, where BHP had demonstrated that they've got a very large gold zone. It's broad. It's in true width, something in excess of 200 meters wide. It's long, where it's been drilled. It's like over 800 meters along strike. It's open. It has a flavor, the trace element flavor, similar to other high-grade epithermal systems in Nevada and BC, right? It's got a lot of arsenic, antimony, all the trace elements you typically find in the halo above these so-called bonanza plays, right? So that's what we have, and it's never been drilled because it's a little deeper. It's not like Golden Line in BC, which is sitting on surface.
Right.
Rockland East is a little deeper, and what we're really going for there is another high-grade, just high-grade play, and we're looking for the boiling zone below this big blob of low-grade material that's a little deeper. And by the way, it's not just low-grade. You know, if you talk about the huge volume, yes, but within it, they've already demonstrated with the drilling that they've got high-grade structures, genuinely high-grade structures, typically surrounded by wall rock that's brecciated wall rock and such that's carrying lower grades. So we can target the high-grade structures where they're going down into the bonanza zone as well, or what we hope is the bonanza zone. But it's a very clear target area, and that's our main interest there, Jay. And we're active. We're actually on the ground in Nevada as I'm speaking to right now. We've been doing a lot of surface sampling somewhat to the east of Rockland East because we think it's open in that direction under the pediment. So it's looking very encouraging. But we will not get to drilling that this year. It's simply impossible to permit that quickly. It'll be sometime next year.
Right. Well, it's another great looking prospect anyway. And again, I think it's maybe your primary purpose wasn't to have something to talk about in the winter, but it's still good to have that when you're focused on the seasonal play. Just in wrapping up now, Kevin, what should our viewers be looking forward to in the way of news flow? I guess drill results and should be coming summertime sometime, starting hopefully.
Yep. I told people we're really well positioned as a stock now. People can see we're well financed. We're far off our highs of last year, and yet we have delivered for those who care to look at what we delivered. It is rather exciting, and they can see for themselves the precise areas that we are targeting and why we are targeting them. They can see that in the presentation. And I would just draw their attention again, Jay, to the fact that you may recall with our discovery at Saddle that first summer, in our first summer, we delivered not only Saddle South, but Saddle North. And that was in the second. But my point is, despite the fact that we knew from the early results there that we had the makings of a potential mine because of the broad widths and the scale of the system, even though we knew that, we went from 45 cents prior to drilling to almost $3 on the news. We gave it all back. We gave it all back. We went back to 45 cents, despite that's what we delivered the first year. So I tell people, you know, we probably fly high if we get some great results. We will certainly fly high if we get some great results, but don't expect us to stay up there. And don't blame us if we come off. You kind of got to be philosophical about it, because we will, if this property is really of true merit, despite the volatility, we will end up in the longer term at much higher prices, but it's going to be a rocky road.
Yeah, well,
Well,
that's par for the course for this exploration industry. It's high risk, high reward, and this looks
and
at a
volatile.
third of your price last summer. I know there's more shares out, but it looks like an opportune time to pick up some shares, as I have prior to this recording. Anything
I put
else?
some.
Yep.
I would mention, Jay, I put money more of my own. I put another $120,000 in at Christmas at 20 cents.
Uh-huh.
So,
Well, it's good to know you're eating your own cooking, as they say.
yeah.
Very important. All right, Kevin, I want to thank you very much. This is a story I want to keep track of and probably introduce to my subscribers as well. Thank you very much for your time. It's
Thanks a lot, Jay.
been great catching up with you. And as I say, successful people are the ones we want to follow. So it's betting on the jockey. That's an important part of this business.
Well, I appreciate the interest.
Thank you very much, Kevin. We'll be in touch. Thank you.
Thanks, Jay.